What's on your mind? Is there something you need? It is no trouble. I will answer to the best of my ability. It has been almost a year, hasn't it? Do you miss the tower at all? You can take a mage out of the circle, but you can't take the circle out of the mage. Or so Irving used to say. He was joking, but there is some truth to the statement. A mage never really leaves the circle, and for the rest of your life you will be seen as a circle mage. Yes, even though you are a Grey Warden now, you are a mage, and always will be, especially in the eyes of others. But you will always be a mage, especially in the eyes of others. You represent both mages and Grey Wardens, and your actions may reflect well or badly on both groups. Remember that. That is commendable. But one's principles are often subtly influenced by others, though you may be unconscious of it. The only thing one can do is to be aware that this is a possibility, and ask yourself often why you do what you do. You do not live in isolation. Your actions have consequences, and they affect those around you. Only children and fools fail to realize this. I'm glad to hear that. I can see that. Very well. We will no longer speak of this. I do not want to, so try not to give me cause to do so. Oh, but listen to me go on. You start a conversation, and I just run away with it, don't I? I've been mentoring apprentices for so long, it's become something I do unconsciously. I don't know if I could stop even if I wanted to. Nothing wrong with hobbling. It's a perfectly acceptable way to get around. Oh, yes, one must be thankful for small mercies. People don't become mages. They are born mages. The talent just surfaces later. But you are asking how I ended up at the circle. I was brought there by the Templars, just like many of the other apprentices. I don't remember very much. I was very young then. I set a boy on fire. Oh, yes, he did. He was the eldest son of the woman who took me in. I don't think he ever liked me. It's a long story. I didn't have a family. I never knew my real parents. My earliest memory was of hiding in a hayloft on a farm, trying to keep warm. I was found, and the farmer's wife was kind enough not to send me away. But they had children of their own, and I was never made to feel welcome. The eldest son was the worst. He was always calling me a stray, and throwing anything he could get his hands on at me. And I don't know how it happened, but one day he just found his hair on fire. Fortunately, there was a large trough nearby. So many are gone. They will need new enchanters. Perhaps they will look to Orlais or Antiva. The circle is in good hands. Irving knows what to do, and he doesn't need me underfoot. For now, I will support those that battle the Darkspawn. I do feel I left things unfinished in Ostagar. There is so much left to do, and I would be part of it. Pulling rank, are we? Very well. Just remember, you did not have the benefit of the training most Grey Wardens have had in the past. Just a little. But don't worry. I'm sure you'll work out just fine. And if not, well, there's always that fellow Alistair. Yes, I did leave them. But if the blight is not stopped, all of them will face suffering greater than what was seen in the tower. The Grey Wardens, all 2 of you, need all the help you can get. I will see this through to the bitter end, and after that, if I am still left standing, then I will return to the circle. Oh, I will. You can bet your fuzzy little socks I will, perhaps. No, of course I don't. I'm old and unsure of what I'm doing. Actually, I'd rather be in a warm chair in the sun, being served pudding or some other easily digestible food. Well, get on it then, and make sure there's a blanket in my chair, and that it's soft, and that the pudding doesn't have cream on it. Cream gives me gas. I'm sorry. People often jest about my age, and I've learned to just play along. You need a sense of humor when you're as old as I am. I know. I was just teasing. The ability to laugh at myself is something I developed too late in life. But to allay your fears, yes, I am sure this is what I want. What do you want from me? He ran screaming, dripping head and all, to his mother. I was shut up in the barn, with a bowl of water and a crust of hard bread. The Templars arrived several mornings later. I had singed his hair and eyebrows, but injured little other than his pride. Who knows what they would have done to me had he been more seriously hurt. Thankfully, all I had to endure was a few nights locked in a cold barn with a bowl of water and a crust of bread. And you would have seen yourself trussed up like a festival turkey and paraded about the square for it. Village folk have little love for witches like us. Quite a few decades, yes. My life before the circle is a fuzzy memory. The barn kept me safe from the village children and the stones they would hurl at me. I was afraid, yes, but it could have been much worse. I'll never forget the moment the Templars led me into the entrance hall of the tower. I had never seen anything so grand in my life. One of them ignored me, but the other was kind to me. He gave me sweets and even sat me on his shoulders once when I wanted to look over a high wall that ran along the road. I stopped being afraid then. I knew I was home. I learned very quickly that for every apprentice in the tower, there was probably one who never even lived to see the Templars come. No child, not even a mage child, is a match for an angry mob trying to place blame for a failed crop, a hard winter, a baby born dead. Prison. You could see it that way. But those walls are there to keep non-mages out as much as to keep mages in. We were the lucky ones, but it was the circle that saved you. I will stop. Reminiscence on times long gone should be a private, self-indulgent pastime. Well, that's about all there is to my tale. That's how I came to the circle. Superstition and fear is what makes these people behave in this manner. It will be a good long time before that changes. Yes, perhaps, in 1 out of 100 cases. Not nearly enough to justify the violence. It will be difficult for a while, but I have no doubt that the circle will recover. I would be lying if I said it was easy. First, there were rules, and we were constantly watched to make sure we behaved appropriately. Then there was the study of magic. We had to cast the spells just so, control the effects completely. A single word spoken incorrectly, a gesture out of sync, meant lack of focus, and we needed to have perfect focus, or we would be in danger from fade spirits. If we were careless, they would enter our minds, and we would become abominations. It may seem that way sometimes, but it was the best thing for me. I was given the opportunity to develop my skills, to learn, and there was joy in life at the circle. The joys of fellowship, in knowing that you were not alone in your struggles. Perhaps it was like your life in the alienage. The people outside may have shunned you, but you didn't care because you were surrounded by your kind, your family. We are not so different, you and I. In spite of everything, I was happy in the tower, and I loved it. Without the circle and my mentors, I would not have been where I am today. Irving told me about how you became a Grey Warden, and that unpleasant incident that occurred prior to your departure from the circle. So, tell me, how did you become a Grey Warden? Ah, I see. Do you mind if I ask what you did? Oh, I'm sorry. I should not have brought it up. It must be an unhappy memory. You say that with such cold satisfaction that it frightens me. But I can see no fault in your actions. I would have done the same. It sickens and saddens me to hear what men in power inflict on those who they ought to serve and protect. I have heard stories that some Templars who hunt Maleficarum do not end the hunt with a clean death, that they subject the victim to countless abuses and indignities before they finish it. But this is just a rumor. Regardless of what happened in your past, I am glad you found a place with the Wardens, as I'm sure you are too. Oh, I see. I am sorry you had to go through such an injustice. I'm speechless. It never ceases to amaze me whenever I hear of such despicable acts. Then I will not press you any further. I understand your need for privacy. Then you became a Grey Warden out of necessity. But Duncan must also have seen something special in you. The Order does not take in recruits just to save their life. Arl Rendon Howe? The Earl of Amaranthine? Why would he do such a thing to you? You are the last of the Couslands? I had no idea. My lady, you are the last of the Couslands? I had no idea. My lord, you are keeping this tale to yourself, I see. Fair enough. Forgive me for prying. Yes, I suppose so. You can no longer have a title, can you? But that does not mean you must forget utterly where you came from. Do not be blinded by your desire for revenge. Rendon Howe will get what he deserves in time. Such deeds cannot go unpunished. There is nothing I can say to ease your pain. I am sorry. No, not nothing. You are a Grey Warden, one of the last of the Ferelden Wardens. We depend on you now. I have learned a little of the strict caste system of the dwarves, and I apologize for saying this, but it seems terribly backward. You survived the deep roads and the darkspawn that dwell there. Truly, you were born to be a Grey Warden. You must be proud to be able to represent your tribe and the Dalish as a Grey Warden. Take heart, dear friend. You survived, even when you were not expected to. We do not know yet what lies in store for you, or the name you carry. It is not so bad, is it, being a Grey Warden? Sometimes it gives me comfort to think that everything will end up the way it's supposed to, that it will be all right. You were chosen. You survived the joining when others did not. Perhaps it was meant to be. I am interested to hear. Fair enough. None other. I respect the decision you made and the way you handled it. And it did not seem to affect Duncan's desire to recruit you. Yes, I'm sure you do, and I respect that. Irving told me he was relieved Duncan was still willing to recruit you. That's not something either of us can alter. So it is best to put it behind you. Stupid or desperate or just curious. He's not the first. He won't be the last. Yes, I understand. Jowen was your friend, and, well, I shan't pry. But that aside, you're a Grey Warden now, and perhaps I presume too much by saying this, but the Circle is proud of you. Then I will say no more. If you do not wish to remember your beginnings, I will not waste my time trying to remind you, and perhaps you would be dead now. Thinking such things is neither productive nor good for your soul. You can agonize about how you should have been at the tower, or you can imagine that you weren't there because you had to be elsewhere. Do not squander this time trying to explain why Irving picked you. Accept it, and be the Grey Warden you're supposed to be. You are a true child of the Circle. Raw power tempered with learning, wisdom, and the desire to serve others. Have you encountered many abominations, apart from the ones in the Circle Tower? Ah, yes, Connor, of course. The first time I saw an abomination, my blood turned to ice. It was months before the nightmares stopped. You are younger than I, and your nerves yet have some steel in them. Did you feel any fear facing the abominations? It was the knowledge that I could easily become one of them that frightened me the most. Every mage is vulnerable, no matter how accomplished or powerful. That is the first thing we learn, and overconfidence can lead to recklessness. One slip. All it takes is one slip, and everything you are is simply gone, replaced by madness. And there is no turning back, or at least that's what they say. Of late, I have begun to wonder if there is any way an abomination can be cured, or if a mage could be so possessed and still retain their sanity, their humanity. Yes, it is madness and cruelty that define abominations. If those are lacking, if the mage remembers the person they truly are, then they are not an abomination. I never saw that. Thank you for showing me another way of looking at it. I suppose that old adage remains true. Prevention is better than a cure, because every mage lives with this threat. It is constantly on our minds. Do not trouble yourself, though. This is only an old lady giving voice to her musings. Have you heard much about the Grey Wardens of old? Griffins. Alas, that seems to be the only thing people remember from the tales, the mighty flying mounts that bore the Grey Wardens into battle. Unfortunately, they've all passed back into the Maker's hand, so that wish will have to go unfulfilled. Ah, yes, the glory days. It was said that watching the Wardens ride in on their white griffins was enough to rouse a weary heart and put the dance back in the step of an old man. The Grey Wardens were powerful, feared and respected, but they also inspired the common people. You are still fierce warriors. You still sense the darkspawn, but no one cares or remembers what the Grey Wardens did for them centuries ago. I remember a tale that was told to me. Many years ago. Maker's mercy, it's like talking to a child. Yes, there are griffins in this story. I was going to. Do you object to this? And why not? What is wrong with telling a tale that will liven the spirit and spark the imagination? The blight had ravaged the land for months, and the armies of the great kings had amassed for one last stand. As the sun burst through the clouds that boiled and churned in the dark sky above, it illuminated a vast, seething horde of darkspawn, with the archdemon at its head. And it was then, when courage seemed to fail, and all lost to death and despair, that the Grey Wardens came. They arrived with the beating of wings like mighty war drums, and stood before the armies of men. Yes, griffins. Now listen to the rest of the story, and you are poorer for it. The Grey Wardens, grim and fearless, marched forth, ever between the men and the encroaching darkspawn. That's not the point of the tale. They formed a shield of their own bodies and held that line until the archdemon was dead, and the last darkspawn lay trampled in the dirt, and then, demanding neither reward nor recognition for their sacrifice, the Grey Wardens departed. When the clouds finally rolled back, and the sun shone full upon the blighted ground, the great kings knew that they had lost no men, and none of their blood had been spilled. You are observant. This is a tale about no battle the Grey Wardens have fought, and yet about them all. They have always defended us from the darkspawn, taking losses so we do not have to. People may have forgotten over the centuries, but nothing has changed. This knowledge has been blessing and burden to Grey Wardens past, and now it shall be your blessing and your burden. I must ask, what does being a Grey Warden mean to you? There's that, of course, but there's more to being a Grey Warden than killing darkspawn and saving the world from the blight. Ultimately, being a Grey Warden is about serving others, about serving all people, whether elves or dwarves or men. If that is your goal, then I'm afraid you will be a poor Grey Warden indeed. I just wanted to know what you thought being a Grey Warden was about. It is the guardian who serves, not the one who is being guarded. Or did you think it was the other way around? You have ears, but you use them only to hear the sound of your own voice, it seems. So be it. As a Grey Warden, you are a guardian of men, and you guard them because their continued existence is more important than you are. Thus it is you who serves, not they. A Grey Warden should put aside the person that he used to be. It has shaped the person that he is, but he has become something greater. Grey Wardens have no titles. They owe no allegiance to a king or lord. They cannot serve one people. They must serve them all and protect them all. But I've lectured enough for today. I should stop before I wear out my welcome. It's been a long day. Rest would be welcome. Yes, of course. I am just a little weary. As you may have noticed, I'm no spring chicken. Ha, very funny. But in all honesty, I do not know how many years I have left in me. I have lived for such a long time, but there is always something else to do. And I have to keep going in order to do it. I think I will be glad when I am done. Thank you. You're very kind to say so. I'm just feeling a little weary is all. Oh, I don't know. I really don't. Oh, no. I'm not the sort of person that leaves things unfinished. I'll see this through, I promise. Is something troubling you? A good king, a true king who cares for his land, uses his power to rule firmly but fairly. He serves his people first and foremost. The king who does not do this, who believes that he is entitled to his power, who abuses it and uses it for his own means, is a tyrant. If you live apart from others and your actions affect only you, then you may do as you wish. But if you have power, influence, and strength, your every action will be as a drop of water in a clear, still pond. The drop causes ripples, and ripples spread. Think of how far they will go, how wide they will become, how will they affect the pond. And the country suffers for it. But we are not talking about how you came by the power, but what you do with it afterwards. Oh, but you are. Your king serves you, does he not? You have to change how you see the world, and what your place in it is. The blight will find its way to the Dalish eventually, if we do not stop it. You have to stop thinking yourself as separate from the humans. You are one of the 2 surviving Grey Wardens in Ferelden. You defend all of us, and much rests on your shoulders. It may not mean much to you, but thank you for having the courage to continue to fight. No one said it would be easy, and that gives me hope. You always have a choice. You could have turned away and ignored the blight until it claimed you. But you didn't. No, you won't. Were you expecting an, "Oh, I'm sure you will. You'll have dozens of babies and die happy and old in your bed"? No, you won't. If I had said that, it would have been a lie, and I would have been doing you an injustice. No, it wouldn't, would it? Being a Grey Warden is in your blood now. You can't escape it, because you were not looking for the answer, but for someone to tell you that in spite of it, you'll be all right. I don't think so either. You would not have been happy living a dull, uneventful life, dying in obscurity. You wonder sometimes, don't you? If your life would be better if you weren't who you are. I didn't. Not for a long time. When I was a young woman in the tower, I came to the realization that the circle would be my life, and I would know no other. Family, love, a simple life. These were things that others took for granted, that I would never have. It made me very moody. All I could think of was being trapped in that tower with no way out and no end in sight. I started hating my life and myself, and one night I found myself in the tower's chapel. I was seeking refuge, maybe answers. We were supposed to be polar opposites, mage and priest. But we weren't. There was much about us that was the same. The revered mother had lived in the chantry all her life, as I had been in the tower for all of mine. Not all priests choose their path. Some children are given to the chantry to raise and become initiates. She taught me that you can find your family in the people around you, that you can love your work and find fulfillment in duty, and there is joy even in self-sacrifice. If you put others before yourself, then their well-being is yours, and their happiness is your happiness. I must have looked tearful or made some noise, because the revered mother came out and decided to speak to me, and because I had no one else to talk to, I talked to her. I must have said many silly things, but she told me that the Maker puts us all on our paths for a reason, and fighting our intended course is what causes so much anguish. I thought the old biddy was full of rubbish. I was 15, maybe 16, and I knew everything. So I left, but I always found my way back to that chapel, and as the years passed, I began to see the truth of her words. It isn't healthy to throw yourself at a pack of darkspawn either in order to save the world, so I'd say you're in no position to judge. No, I wouldn't. As I mentioned, I once thought the same thing of someone else. You can scream and cry and be angry about life as a Grey Warden, or you can accept it and allow yourself to see the good in it. This is your choice. Oh, yes, and thank you for asking. I'm feeling much better today, and here I was thinking you might actually be concerned for me. I have always had an affinity for the spirits of the Fade. As a child, I never feared my dreams, because I knew they were there. I've always been able to feel the spirits, even if I never saw them. And as I nurtured my talent in the circle, I became more sensitive. I began to notice every time I was in the Fade, whether it was in a dream or in magical practice, that I was being watched. Sometimes I would see it, a glowing, nebulous form. Most times I would just feel its presence, gentle and comforting, but somehow alien. It did not feel evil. I never feared it. In fact, it infused me with soft, strange warmth I never felt before. I suppose they must. It is these benevolent spirits that create our dream worlds in the Fade. I think it is a spirit of faith. They have never been seen before, and perhaps I am wrong. But something tells me I'm not. It always felt like the same entity. This one spirit was curious about me, and was guarding me, for want of a better word. There were times when I was in the Fade, that it seemed to stretch forth to shield me, keeping me safe. And I think it gave me strength in my most terrible battles, Ostagar being one of them. I could sense the demons, too, and their presence frightened me. It was the kindly spirits of the Fade that took the fear from me. I don't know why I was chosen. Perhaps it knew that there was something more that lay in store for me. I like to think that I was given a rare chance, and I'm going to make the best of the time so generously given to me. I will not lie motionless in a bed with coverlets up to my chin, waiting for death to claim me. That is not the death for me. And so I will fight alongside the Grey Warden, and help prepare her for the task that is yet before her. So you had better listen to me, because I swear, if I should fall before the end and you don't seem to be doing things properly, I'll get up again to give you a good finger-wagging. You know, I think you'll be all right, even without my help. Joking? Maybe. Maybe not. We'll see when the time comes, won't we? And so I will fight alongside the Grey Warden, and help prepare him for the task that is yet before him. I fell. For a moment there, I thought it was all over. I will explain everything when we are back at camp. Now is not the time. That was interesting and draining. I called forth the spirit that sustains me so that it could lend us aid. I did not realize it would take this much out of me. It seemed a good idea at the time, if a little rash. I think it may have weakened the spirit a little. I suppose I shouldn't be using that particular trick to entertain children at parties. Cure me? What, am I sick now? Even you know that you cannot cure the dead. And I'm not the only one dying. You are too. I'm just more efficient about it. Ah, child, your concern is heartwarming. But death comes to everyone, and it is not something to fear. People fear not death, but having life taken from them. Many waste the life given to them, occupying themselves with things that do not matter. When the end comes, they say they did not have time enough to spend with loved ones, to fulfill dreams, to go on adventures they only talked about. But why should you fear death if you are happy with the life you have led? If you can look back on everything and say, yes, I am content. It is enough. Ah, human nature. You are right. Some people will never be content and will always want more. I think I've led a good life, a full life, and I, for one, am not afraid of death, whatever it may bring. They say that when you die, your spirit travels through the Fade and returns to the Maker. And after that, we'll see, won't we? I try not to dwell too much on the mistakes of my past, of which there are many. I would go quite mad if I did that. But I do have one regret. The greatest misstep of my life, made even more grave because it had dire consequences for someone else. Years ago, I was assigned as mentor to a lad, Anarin. He was my first apprentice. Anarin was an elf, raised in one of the elven alienages, and he was very mistrustful of humans, especially humans in authority. What Anarin needed was time. Time to get used to his new home, time to emerge from his shell, so we could build a rapport. I gave him no such time. I was young and arrogant. He is a mage, I thought. He needs to grow up and act like one. I was his mentor, an authority figure. He can't have liked me very much. All he knew of the humans was what he had seen in the alienage. He was very wary of us. Perfect? Hardly. I aspired to it, but have fallen quite short. Quite short indeed. I expected too much from him, too quickly. I gave no consideration to his origin or his feelings, and he retreated further from me. All I could think of was how stubborn he was, how he was throwing away all his talent and his potential, just to be difficult. Oh, I dread to think. I was a harsh taskmistress. He might have thought I was a demon in disguise. Oh, age and wisdom have mellowed me. I was quite different back then. Much more unforgiving. Oh, very much so. Sometimes I would catch him practicing on his own, but if I asked him to show me what he could do, he would freeze up or fumble terribly. You cannot plant crops in the cold, wintry ground. You cannot teach a student who is closed off and unresponsive. Patience is what is needed. And I learned that too late to help him. Anarin ran away from the circle one night. I had berated him over some trivial, ridiculous matter that I no longer remember. I drove him away because of something utterly unimportant. He was a child, 14 at the time of his leaving. They had his phylactery, and they hunted him down. I just wish I had been more aware, stopped for a moment to put myself in his shoes. The phylactery is a vial of blood taken from a mage. But blood is connected to life, and your blood can be used to track you down. They called him Maleficar, a mage who practices forbidden magic, deserving of death. He was a child, misunderstood and lost. The Templars. That is what they do. They hunt down and neutralize rogue mages. I begged the Templars to tell me if he suffered, if they gave him a quick death. I got no answers from them. I was his mentor, and they wouldn't even tell me what became of him. I failed Anarin. All I had to do was listen to him. He would try to talk to me, and I would tell him to concentrate on his spells. He talked about the alienage sometimes, and the Dalish. He always talked about looking for the Dalish elves. The Templars are well trained and thorough. That he still lives, it would be a vain hope. The apprentices that came after Anarin benefited greatly from the lessons I learned from him. In a sense, he was my teacher, and I his student. And there it is. My story, my one greatest regret. It was you that brought this up. Thank you so much. You led me to Anarin. You persisted, even though I was sure all you were going to find was a dead end. For leading me to Anarin, of course. Yes, have you given any thought to what Anarin said? There is wisdom in his words. You are a mage, and you could be what the Circle needs most. But you never really left the Circle like Anarin did. But if you do, what then? You're not an apostate like Anarin. You could return, help us rebuild. That's the point. It doesn't have to be. If you went back and assumed a position of power, you could change it for the better. Your life as a Grey Warden has given you a chance to venture abroad, farther than many mages have been. You've seen the world, dealt with kings and lords, Templars and apostates. You've seen the good and bad of all of these. You could bring these experiences back to the Circle, improve it with what you know. It will take time, but it can be done, slowly. Oh, believe me, I would if I could. But I am not long for this world. Day by day, I feel myself weakening. I will not live to see the Circle rebuilt and made stronger and more glorious. This will be a dream I take to my grave. It doesn't have to be a dream for you. I should have known better. I had the best mentors. They were kind, compassionate. Why didn't I learn from them?